Damn it. Guess we're locked in. Alright, let's do this. Let's make sure I got light here. I don't want to shine on my face. Got my water. Let's see here. What up, what up? I'm gonna get ready to start here shortly. What up, Max? What up, Frank? Nice to see you guys. Where is... I wanted to send out a thing on Instagram, but I'm locked in now. Where was what I was just looking at? All right, welcome guys. So what I'm going to do, I don't have some of the fancy stuff. I would have liked to show you what I'm looking at. So I'm gonna have to just read off the players. So what I'm looking at right now is the fantasy football calculator. Okay, they have their top 200 players. So I'm just gonna go down the list. Obviously, I'm not gonna speak on every player. Those of you that know me by now know I don't really like that many players. I only like 30 players in the whole league. So there's a lot of players that, are big names that I might be skipping over. And that's fine. You guys are probably gonna think, well, what about this guy? What about that guy? And we'll briefly touch on everyone, but I'm not gonna go in depth. I'm only really gonna want to talk about the players that I would really consider drafting. And that's the thing, like every position only really has just really like a couple of elite players. And that's all I really care about. Fantasy is all about getting elite players. They're very hard to get. That's why when I make trades, most of the times I just try to trade for those elite players. I don't like making just like little trades. And then I guess the big difference between Dynasty and reality, there's really not that much difference, to be quite frank, the way I play. I usually like young players anyway. I usually like players that are on the upside, not injury prone, not on the decline. So for me, there's not a lot of difference. What we're gonna do here though is we're gonna treat it like half PPR. So it's not gonna be full PPR, it's gonna be 0.5 PPR, 12-man Dynasty league. This is the other thing too. I think, Dynasty, you don't want to play too much for the future. So I think anytime you look at a player, if they can be good for at least 2 or 3 more years, I think you should draft them. You don't want guys like Julian Edelman that are, simply old and maybe have 1 more year left. But you also don't want to pass up on a guy like, I don't know, Kenyon Drake, who, can easily have 2 or 3 years left, even though he's 26. Running backs usually get old at 30, maybe 28, 29. So he's still got a couple of years. Because this is the thing, you don't know what's going to happen in 2 or 3 years. You might quit that Dynasty league. So don't play too much in the future. But also you don't want to play too much in the now either. You know what I'm saying? So basically, this is how I select a player. If they're elite, you got to select elite guys. Next thing I look for is upside. Once the upside guys are gone, that's when I start drafting the veterans. That's when you'll see me take maybe like a Julian Edelman who could produce this year. And then the last thing I look at is for guys that I don't really like. Like if all the guys that I like are done, then I'll look at guys who have perhaps high trade value, have some name recognition, okay? Well, let's kick it off, guys. Let's get right into it, okay? So, again, for those who are just joining, this is PPR, half PPR Dynasty League 12-man team. This is how I would look at it. So, fantasy football calculators got Christian McCaffrey, number 1. Got no problem with that. I don't know if I would select Christian McCaffrey over Saquon Barkley just for the simple fact that you guys know talent over everything. Not that CMC is not talented, but they also have a new coaching staff. So, of course, CMC is going to get his, but we don't know if he's going to catch 100 receptions again. You know what I'm saying? So, long term, I still think I like Barkley. Maybe this year I would still go CMC, but it's tough. It's really tough. You guys know how much I love Barkley. But either one of those, I think every draft, they're going to be your first 2 picks. Well, actually here, surprisingly, they have Michael Thomas second and they have Barkley third. I wouldn't do that, even though I will say this. I think receivers in Dynasty are more of a premium. And the reason I say that is because every year you have running backs that come into the league and are forced their rookie season. Every single year. Okay, receivers, how many receivers come to the league and are an absolute wrecking force? None. Even the best rookie receivers, Debo, AJ Brown, all those guys, they start turning it up later on in the year and they ended up being wide receiver 2s, wide receiver 3. That's kind of their upside when you're talking about rookie wide receivers. However, the upside for a running back rookie is like overall number 1 best running back in the league. So that's why I say when you're looking at Dynasty, I actually like receivers more in certain ways because you can't get. So next year, like let's say you didn't draft good receivers and then you go into next season, you're not going to get a number 1 receiver next season. So you're screwed. Now you might get a guy like CeeDee Lamb or Judy and then they'll be good 2 years from now. But then do you really want to stink 2 years in a row? Not really. All right. So moving quite along here. My third pick, this is tough, but because there's really no clear third pick, it's got to be Michael Thomas. It's got to be Michael Thomas, even in half PPR, because he's just so consistent. I just really value players that are super consistent, and he's a target monster. He's consistent. He's in the right offense that feeds him. He doesn't get hurt. He's everything you could possibly want, because that's the thing, guys. You want to really hit your first round pick. If you don't hit your first round pick, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Just to put in perspective, my first round pick last year was Juju Smith-Schuster. I picked him 5th. Now, I made the mistake. I didn't even know. I thought it was full PPR. I didn't know it was half PPR in my Dynasty League. Anyway, after that, it went to shits. So you really got to hit on your first round pick. And even, not all first rounders are built the same. So here, I'll give you an example. So Alvin Kamara is somebody I would feel good. First round pick. He's 24. He's heavily involved. That's a nice first round pick. DeAndre Hopkins, how old is DeAndre Hopkins now? Maybe 28? Let's see, DeAndre Hopkins' age. I believe he's 28. So I'm not in love with DeAndre Hopkins here. He's 27, turning 28 by the time. Okay, so I was right. So he's not old. He can still have 2, maybe 3 really good years. But we can't say he's like probably at his peak right now. So I don't know if I would like DeAndre Hopkins 5th over Devontae Adams. Now, Devontae Adams probably just a year younger. Let's look here. Devontae Adams' age. So yeah, he's 27. It's about the same age. The thing I like about Devontae Adams and why I would pick him over DeAndre Hopkins in both redraft and here is for several reasons. Because Devontae Adams is just a target monster. He's the closest thing to Michael Thomas, and you saw that at the end of the year. Rodgers just keeps feeding him and feeding him and feeding him, and he's just matchup proof. Rodgers is super accurate. He's not the best fantasy-wise, but he feeds Devontae Adams. So Devontae Adams is matchup proof. He's going to get his. So I probably like Devontae Adams there. Zeke is another guy I would consider there. You know who else I would consider there? Actually, I probably like, I might like Nick Chubb 4th over Alvin Kamara and DeAndre Hopkins. So Nick Chubb, Devontae Adams, those are 2 players I think I like over Alvin Kamara and, Alvin Kamara and Nick Chubb, I think I would like over Devontae Adams, and then I would probably pick Devontae Adams. And then, They got Joe Mixon and Ezekiel Elliott 10 and 11. I don't know. I don't know if I like DeAndre Hopkins over Mixon, over Ezekiel Elliott, over Josh Jacobs. I'm really high on Jacobs because, receivers, while I said they are a premium in Dynasty because you can't draft a good rookie receiver. You could draft a good rookie receiver, but you can't draft a great. At the same time, I don't see a lot of pure, number one future running backs. I don't see that because outside of the guys I just mentioned, which are CMC, Saquon, Nick Chubb, Alvin Kamara, and I think I'll add a couple more. I'll add Joe Mixon, Ezekiel Elliott, Josh Jacobs, and Dalvin Cook. That's about 10, right? Those are my sure, bona fide number one running backs. Because as much as I love Drake and as much as I love Eckler, that still, if I had those as my number one running backs, I wouldn't feel comfortable. I wouldn't. I think Drake, if he plays the whole year, will be a top 3 running back based on an offense and based how they used him. 70%, touches, a pass catcher, potent offense, goal line work. But Drake's never done it. So to say I would feel comfortable, so that's the thing. And then outside of receivers, there's really only 3 that I really feel comfortable, and that I feel good. I got a nice first round pick, and that's Devontae Adams, or in this order is Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams, and Chris Godwin. Those are the 3 I feel comfortable because they have everything you could possibly want as far as usage, youth. They're target monsters. I love their consistency, and they have high ceilings. So they have low floors, high ceilings. They're pretty healthy. I know Godwin got injured last year, but it was towards the end of the year. And I know Devontae Adams was injured, but he came back. From a serious injury, and he tore it up. So those are my guys. Those first round picks, and look, there's really not that many. So we got CMC, Barkley, Kamara, Zeke, Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, Dalvin Cook, Josh Jacobs, and then we have Michael Thomas, Chris Godwin, and Devontae Adams. That's my top 12 picks. If I get any one of those, I feel pretty good. Now, what's the difference between what I told you and what we have here is you have guys like Julio Jones. Why would you want Julio Jones in the first round of a Dynasty league? Julio Jones is 30 years old. He was injured last year. He's had his shoe of injuries, and I know he's played, but at some point that's catching up. Then you got Lamar Jackson. Love Lamar Jackson, game changer. But again, quarterback, you could get that later. Running style quarterbacks, how long do they usually last? You have that injury risk. So if you pick Lamar in the first, that means you're not getting probably none of the guys I mentioned, those top 12 guys, right? So if you miss on Lamar and you don't have a bona fide number one receiver and a bona fide number one running back, I don't know. It's not the way I want to start a Dynasty league. So now we're getting into the round 2 guys. Gets a little tricky here. I think round 2 is super tricky. Round 2 almost makes you want to do 2 things. Either reach or draft a quarterback. So here, and I see your question, Con, and I think, and it's almost like you read my mind. So after those 12 guys are selected, right? I think you got to consider Patrick Mahomes. Because the guys that are left are Aaron Jones, not a slam dunk. Derrick Henry, not a slam dunk. Leonard Fournette, definitely not a slam dunk. Travis Kelce, Mike Evans, George Kittle, Kenny Golladay, Mari Cooper, Cooper Kupp. I'm just reading down the list that they got. Is there anybody that you really want that I just mentioned over Patrick Mahomes and that consistency? You know what I'm saying? So you really got to consider Patrick Mahomes at the top of the second. Same thing with Lamar Jackson, just because Lamar Jackson, if he is healthy, he's going to dominate for at least a couple of more years. So I don't know that I will pick any of those guys over, like I said, Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry, blah, 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 Julio, DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, I guess if we left DeAndre Hopkins out of the first round, then you're between Patrick Mahomes and DeAndre Hopkins. I still like Mahomes. I think I still like Mahomes. So second round is a shit show, like for real. Like you might have to go with a guy like, since it's all a shit show, I might go with a, well, Dalvin Cook. See, this is the thing. They have Dalvin Cook right now at 32. He might be that. Or no, I mentioned him amongst my 12, right? I believe I did. Anyway, Dalvin Cook would be like that first rounder. So second rounders, to me, it's all question marks. If you can get a good value in the second round, that's huge. That's huge because they're all kind of like, so it goes by tiers. CMC and Barkley, that's one tier. Then Zeke, Cook, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs. I think that's the second tier, those 5. And then, remember, this is a dynasty. Then you're talking about Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry. I'm not touching Leonard Fournette in dynasty. Just not. I'm not touching guys like Amari Cooper. Just not. Because I don't like the second round, it gets really tough. It gets really tough. Now, they don't have a second round. If you could get away with an Eckler or a Drake, that should be your goal there. That should be your goal. A guy like Miles Sanders might be a consideration because it's dynasty, maybe. Because a lot of these guys, though, I would prefer them in the third round, but there's really not that many, attractive players. Cooper Kupp, they even got him 24. I don't think anybody really looks like Cooper Kupp like that. I'm not doing the rookies today. This is no rookies included. All right. So moving along, Kelsey, they got him 18. I'm not a fan of Kelsey. He's 30 years old. Let me tell you something about tight ends. So I would do Kittle, and they got actually Kelsey over Kittle. I'm not doing Kittle, or I'm not doing Kelsey. I'm not doing Zach Ertz. Not doing those guys. So I'm good on that. So here, if you want a receiver, they got Mike Evans, 19. I would take Kenny Galladay over Mike Evans. I just don't know with Brady. So I like Kenny Galladay a lot. I like DJ Shark a lot. And even though they got him like 41, I love DJ Shark. I love AJ Brown. But you see, these guys are going a lot later. So hopefully in your league, they're drafting, the Julio Jones, those sexy names, the Leonard Fournettes, and you can let some of these guys drop. But second round is a good opportunity. If you get your running back in the first round, I think, and either Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson's available in Dynasty, you got to draft them. I think in Dynasty, though, they could go first round. But, let's move quite along here. Chris Carson, I don't really like him in Dynasty. He's got that injury history. Melvin Gordon, same. Evan Ingram, the guy here, 28, don't like him. Adam Thielen's an interesting name. And I think Adam Thielen could be the steal in Dynasty because 2 reasons. The sentiment overall is down on Adam Thielen. He's been injured 2 years in a row, or at least that's the perception. He's getting older. I think he could be the steal of the draft. So that's why, if you do not get a quarterback in the second round, you need to get a guy like Drake or Eckler. Because if you compare them with a Dalvin Cook, with a Nick Chubb, with the Joe Mixon, with the Josh Jacobs, that's really nice. Now, if you get a receiver, it's a little bit scary. So if you pair Adams with a Drake, that scares me because Drake is not a slam dunk like the other running backs I mentioned. But if you could go double receiver, if you could go double running back or running back quarterback, that's the way to go, guys. That's going to be a winning formula because then there's tons of receivers in the third round that could be wide receiver ones. Because then you're talking about DJ Moore, AJ Brown, or DJ Moore and DJ Shark, AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin you could probably get later, Cortland Sutton. You got so many guys. I prefer Adam Thielen as my wide receiver too, which I don't see any reason why you can't get Adam Thielen in the fourth round, maybe later, but I'll take him in the fourth round even in Dynasty. So, because you got guys like Tyler Lockett that a lot of people are going to pick a little earlier than you should. He's 35th. A guy like James Conner, I want no part of. A guy like Kerryon Johnson, I want no part of. And these guys are going to be pretty high. And then you can get a guy like Calvin Ridley, Devin Singletary. Your next running back should be after Eckler and Drake. So we went Saquon, CMC, one category. Next category, we got Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, Ezekiel Elliott, and Josh Jacobs. That's your next category. The next category after that, you got Drake and Eckler. And then the next one after that, you got Singletary, you got Miles Sanders. So you could group these. And that's why if I don't get one player, I don't trip. You know what I'm saying? Because there's always going to be similar players. And then here we're at 42. They got Mark Andrews. I don't know. He's kind of injury prone. I don't know if I like him there. Zach Ertz, I mentioned I don't like him. T.Y. Hilton, don't really like him in Dynasty. Stephon Diggs is okay, but I'm not sure I would pick Stephon Diggs, and he's going earlier than guys like DJ Moore, AJ Brown. All those guys I mentioned, I think I like them more. I don't trust Josh Allen like that. I think Diggs could be a little boomer bust. I like Diggs, but I don't know if I like him long-term more than I like some of these other guys. And then once you get it, Mark Ingram, 49, that's ridiculous. He's 30 years old. I think he's going to be a bust this season. I can't picture him, going the whole nine, the whole season, 30 years old, same workload. I'm sure they'll draft a running back. I don't know how I feel about Ingram, and especially not 49 over guys like A.J. Brown, even David Montgomery. I think David Montgomery could be a pretty decent value. It's funny to have David Montgomery over Kenyon Drake, which I don't agree with. But I think David Montgomery, no, I haven't gone over Slayton yet, but David Montgomery could be decent. As the 51 pick, I think that's a great value. Great value for David Montgomery, who has running back one upside. Usually you don't find that. Michael Gallup, he's 53. Love him. Marlon Mack and Jarvis Landry, those are two players I do not like. Marlon Mack has an injury history. Jarvis Landry is coming off a major injury. I do like Tyler Boyd. He's pretty consistent, tons of targets. So I like Boyd. I like Robert Woods, a value there at 57. Austin Hooper at 58. Don't like him. And then Dak Prescott, they got, I skipped over Deshaun Watson. They got Deshaun Watson 52. And yes, I'm going to do a separate Dynasty rookie. This is just for non-rookies. Deshaun Watson, he scares me. I wouldn't pick him. I don't know if I'd pick him in Dynasty, to be quite frank, especially not with the 52nd pick. I like Kyler Murray over Deshaun Watson. And right now they got Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, and Russell Wilson over Kyler Murray. So Kyler Murray might be a little bit of a value in Dynasty, although we can't go by these projections. A lot's going to change, and ADP calculator is not the best. They got Phillip Lindsay 60, which is ridiculous. Kenyon Drake 61. You got Lindsay over Darren Waller 62. I think Waller's going to have a little bit of a regression. They got a couple other tight ends. They're probably drafted receivers, so Not feeling that. 64, Russell Wilson. I just don't think you need to take Wilson there. He's 30, and he's a good quarterback, but he's inconsistent. Better real-life quarterback, even though his numbers are always there at the end of the year. But we saw last year, he started off like a bat out of hell, and then he just faded. Now, some of that had to do with injuries. I do like Russell Wilson, though, because I think he's got arguably his best weapons he's ever had in his career, because he's still got Lockett. He's got DK Metcalf, and I think they signed another receiver. I can't remember. But they got like 20 tight ends. They got Chris Carson. So this is his best set of weapons. I just don't know if I would pick Russell Wilson. Well, definitely not over Kyler Murray. And definitely not. Remember what I told you guys earlier, for those who are joining me. I said the first thing I look for is there any elite players left or potential elites. Like DJ Shark is not elite, but he's got potential, right? And then if there's no elite potential, then I just look for upside. Those guys that, perfect example here, I wouldn't pick Russell Wilson over Terry McLaurin because Terry McLaurin has that huge upside. And I could find another Russell Wilson later on. Daniel Jones could possibly be that guy, Josh Allen. But am I going to find another Terry McLaurin with the 70th pick? Mm-mm. Same thing. I would pick Kareem Hunt over Russell Wilson. Let's see some of these other guys. Juju's 86. Wow. Juju has the chance to be like the most amazing pick this year. Actually, a lot of the guys that I was high on last year didn't really live up to my expectation. I don't think I had any true bust that I could think of. Because even if you consider Juju a bust, he was injured and Ben was out for the year. Joe Mixon was a top 6 running back the second half of the year, I believe. So if Juju's 86, I'm assuming his value will go up. But Juju should be up there. Like, after, Juju's going to be a top 10 receiver. Like, mark my words. So Juju could be a tremendous value. I want no part of Edelman, Brandon Cooks. I don't really like players like that. Aaron Rodgers, Julian Edelman. I think Carson Wentz, and this is why you might almost be forced to draft a quarterback. What I was insinuating in round 2, because if Drake or Eckler is not available in round 2, I'm not gonna pick Aaron. Well, I might pick Aaron Jones in round 2 if I pick the running back in round 1. So maybe Eckler, Drake, and Aaron Jones. Maybe Derrick Henry. I don't know. Maybe Derrick Henry as well. But other than that, you got to go quarterback. But there's some great values. Carson Wentz, I'm surprised he's over Josh Allen. I like Josh Allen over Carson Wentz. But there's great value, man. There's great value. And then you got guys like John Brown. Don't expect another year like that. The dude's been injured his whole career. He finally was healthy, and he was the only really legit wide receiver. I don't really call Cole Beasley like legit like that. Then you got guys like Ronald Jones. We'll see what happens with him. I think like there's a lot of, this is where you get to, this is the trash. This is where people start drafting guys with names. I don't know why Jamal Williams is here. That's not going to happen in real life. But Curtis Samuel, Sterling Shepard, N'Keal Harry, Mecole Hardman, O.J. Howard, I wouldn't pick any of those guys over Darius Slayton, who Corey had mentioned. I wouldn't pick any of those guys over Darius Slayton. Absolutely not. So now we're getting into the hundreds. You got Jameis Winston. He don't even got a team. Rashard Penny, always injured. Robbie Anderson's like a wide receiver 3. Raheem Mostert. Okay. So here's here's where it gets a little interesting. We're at the 100th pick. You gotta analyze your team around this time. This is where you may want to start getting guys that are to fill out your rosters that are going to be good this year. So I think Raheem Mostert could be one of those value picks. He could be one of those value picks. He could have like top 15 RB upside, and you could get him late. Mike Gesicki's okay. That's a little early. Alshon Jeffrey. Guys like Alshon Jeffrey, Sammy Watkins. Those are names I want to know. Latavius Murray, Royce Freeman, Baker Mayfield. Alexander Madison's an interesting name. If you are a Dalvin Cook owner, you have to cuff him. Like, you probably got to select him a round or two earlier, too. Like, you don't want to play around with that, because if Dalvin Cook's your number one pick and you don't get Madison, that's scary. That's really scary. So just make sure. Kirk Cousins. Anthony Miller's an interesting name. Wow, they got Todd Gurley 116th. I mean, I think I'd even take the risk there. I'm not a Gurley guy, but I'm not a Gurley guy. That sounds funny. But look at the guy. Okay, so here's the thing. I mean, I know we can't go by this information, but they got Gurley, then they got Darrell Henderson, then they got Jared Cook, who's old as shit, Tariq Cohen, Justice Hill, James Washington, Golden Tate. All those guys are trash. And then you got Daniel Jones. Even if you pick the quarterback, there's no way those last 20 guys I mentioned, Alshon Jeffrey, Sammy Watkins, Matt Breida, Latavius Murray, Royce Freeman, Baker Mayfield, maybe Alexander Madison, Kirk Cousins, Anthony Miller, Todd Gurley, Darrell Henderson, Jared Cook, Emmanuel Sanders, Tariq Cohen, James Washington, Justice Hill, Golden Tate. I wouldn't pick any of those guys over Daniel Jones. Then after you have Jared Goff, Tyrell Williams. Deontay Johnson's an interesting name. If the Steelers don't draft another, stud, which is very possible because they don't really have any needs. They got a great offensive line, great defense. Could draft a running back, but I mean they got more than one pick and it's deep at wide receiver. So I'm almost willing to bet the Steelers will draft a wide receiver. If they don't, or if they don't draft one as high, then, because I forgot, they don't have a first-round pick. So if they don't get a second-round receiver, hopefully not a third-round receiver, then Deontay Johnson could definitely be a thing. After him, though, Carlos Hyde, Drew Brees, Preston Williams. Preston Williams has got some upside. We're at the 130th pick here. So here's the time you want to start looking at guys like Preston Williams. Here's the time. Tony Pollard, Jamison Crowder, Matthew Stafford, D.D. Westbrook, New England defense. I'm not going to go over defenses. Cam Newton, Duke Johnson, just trash after trash. And then Will Dissly at 143. Obviously, Will Dissly is going to be picked a lot higher than that. I love Will Dissly. He's one of my favorite tight ends. So let's talk about tight ends for a little bit. Let's talk about tight ends. Because I mentioned again earlier, the only quarterbacks I would pick early is Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, maybe Kyler Murray. Okay, I can't look at anything right now, but I'll check it out once we're done with the live. The only tight end I would draft early is Kittle, period. So, after Kittle, remember this is Dynasty, then I think you could wait. And if you get one of these tight ends, Higbee would be my first choice. Higbee, Hurst, Font. I really like Font a lot. Outside of Higbee, I might like Font the most. So we got Higbee, Hurst, Font. Hurst in redraft is going to be amazing. And he's young. And they traded a lot for him. Second round picks a lot. Those three, maybe Goddard, maybe Hawkinson to a lesser extent. It's not that I don't like Hawkinson. I love his talent. But Detroit never features the tight end. They got so many weapons. You got Marvin Jones. You got Kenny Galladay. Who knows who they're going to draft at running back. So you've got tight ends there that you could wait on. Alan Lazard, I'm sure Green Bay will draft a wide receiver, and just there's not a lot of volume to go around. Deshaun Jackson, no. John Ross, no. Jimmy Garoppolo, hell no. Jalen Samuels, Tom Brady. See, all the names I'm pretty much naming right now are trash. So, what I tell you earlier, in the beginning, elite, first 2 rounds. If you could get 2 elite players in the first 2 rounds, because remember, I told you guys, it's only like 3 slam dunk wide receivers and 7 slam dunk running backs. If you could get 2 out of my 12 slam dunks, the math doesn't add up. If you could get 2 out of my 12 slam dunks, which is possible because people are picking Julio Jones in the first round, and people are picking Lamar Jackson in the first round, and people are picking, I don't know, then you're doing really good. So after the elite, we go for upside. The upside guys are A.J. Brown, DJ Shark, guys like that. Then we go for the vets. Some vets that maybe slipped because, they're not dynasty guys. They're a little older. Perfect example would be a guy like Julian Edelman. So you balance out. And then the last part, this is the part we're in right now, because this is the trashy section. Lamar Miller, Chase Edmonds, Gus Edwards, Irv Smith, Josh Gordon. This is the trashy section. You're just going to go with whoever has the most name value, name recognition. So out of these players, I'll go with Tom Brady. Because he's going to light it up this year in Arizona. Somebody's going to need a quarterback. You trade Tom Brady for a draft pick or second round pick, or I don't know, somebody with upside, a backup running back, your handcuff. Because I don't want none of these guys. Now here's an interesting name. Actually, there's 2 interesting names here for Dynasty especially. They got Auden Tate coming off an injury, should be ready for training camp, and Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow was really good. This guy was like Mr. Irrelevant, I think. And he was good outside the slot. Like, he was a wide receiver too, consistent. Right before he got injured or right when he got back. And there's always room for slot receivers. Like, even if Oakland drafts another receiver, he's going to be part of that offense. You need somebody for the in-between routes, the intermediate routes. So I love Hunter Renfrow. And I love Auden Tate. Because Auden Tate's got freakish talent. I think Auden Tate and Preston Williams are 2 big sleepers, 2 deep sleepers that I like a lot, that are super cheap. And I got them both on my Dynasty team. But I'm not being a homer, I promise. There's a reason why I got them. I think those 2 players, they're big, they got huge catch radiuses, and they balled out as rookies, and they were like low picks, undrafted maybe. Good stuff. Those are 2 guys I will be targeting on the low, for real. And then I heard you guys mention this guy, Justin Jackson. I actually love Justin Jackson. Justin Jackson looked damn good last year. He got injured. But tremendous pass catcher, really good pass catcher, and that's something that's so vital in this league. So I really love Justin Jackson as a late round pick. If something happens to Eckler, he's got running back 1 upside because he's a pass catcher and how they use them in LA, and they beefed up their offensive line. And if Tyrod really is the starter, I read something today, they really do like him, and maybe that's their future for multiple years. I don't know. But I really like Justin Jackson. I think Justin Jackson, outside of Alexander Madison and whoever the Arizona Cardinals draft, because here's the thing, I don't believe Chase Edmonds is going to be the primary backup. I don't believe he's the guy, and this is the other issue I have with Drake, which is kind of scary, because what if Arizona drafts somebody? Now, I do think the way Cliff Kingsbury's done this so far, when DJ was healthy, a lot of people thought Chase Edmonds was going to be a thing. He was not. DJ was getting 70% of snaps. Then DJ got hurt. They traded for Drake. People thought it was going to be a 3-headed monster because Chase Edmonds had a couple of games. They both got injured. A lot of people were scared. And then Drake was DJ and Chase Edmonds were non-existent. But I do think that Arizona is going to draft a running back for two primary reasons. Drake's never been the guy before. That's just a fact. I love his upside, but he's true. And Chase Edmonds is small. Like, he got injured right away. Right when they started making him a thing, he got injured. You're not going to go into the season with a 5'9" scat back as your primary backup. It's not going to happen. Arizona will draft a running back. Believe that. Believe it. And Drake's only signed for a year. So yeah, Chase Edmonds, not really high on him. Going back to backups. So the best backups are going to be Alexander Madison, because of Cook, Justin Jackson, and Kareem Hunt. Which Kareem Hunt, I don't technically consider Kareem Hunt a backup because he could still be RB2, possibly a low RB1 with Chubb. So those are the three guys that I could think of off the bat. There might be more. Philip Lindsay's another one. I think Philip Lindsay's a really, really interesting name because if Melvin Gordon is going at the end of the third round, he's worth the risk. However, Melvin Gordon gets injured every year, almost. He averages less than 4 yards per carry. I just wish Lindsay was a better pass catcher, but Lindsay's going to be an interesting name because it's very possible Melvin Gordon goes down again, especially I expect him to get a lot of value. So Philip Lindsay is a very, very valuable handcuff and probably one you could get pretty late. Like, he could possibly be like this year's Eckler. I don't know. Maybe not quite, but you get the point. And then the rest of the guys they got here are defenses. Mohamed Sanu, Kiki QT. I mean, guys that just doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. Okay. So this actually went quicker than I thought. I'm going to open it up to you guys since I saw a couple questions coming in. I don't know if I covered it or not. Gus Edwards could be a valuable backup running back. I think somebody asked me about him. I think a guy like Christian Kirk, who a lot of people are down on since the Arizona Cardinals traded for DeAndre Hopkins. Kirk's not a number one receiver, and they're going to throw a ton. He's got pretty good rapport with Kyler Murray. He could be a value. You know, you're always looking for those value guys. But yeah, you guys got any questions for me? The floor is yours, guys. This is your time. Going once. Going twice. Two and a half. Jordan Howard's an interesting name. Not a guy I typically draft because he is a not a pass catcher, but I definitely think he'll have a role in Miami. I definitely think he'll probably be their goal line back, and I definitely think he could be a good value in a trade chip. You know, if he strings along a couple of good games, that's the type of guy I like to trade or sell high, I should say. All right, guys. Since you guys don't have any questions, I just want to thank you for joining. Hit the subscribe, hit the like if you don't mind. I'm going to be trying to up the content, especially after the draft or leading up to the draft. I want to break down the rookies a little bit further. I have to look. I've been keeping up somewhat, but I want to dig a little deeper on a couple of names. It's definitely a few guys I like, but we'll get into that further. If you haven't checked out my Combine rookie running back video, I would check that out. It doesn't include all the running backs, but kind of ones that had a really good combine. And like I said, there's quite a few names that I think could be a force, at least 4 or 5 running backs that could be relevant this year. So check that out. Until then, peace. We out of here.